Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. Here is Alice and Nicole at Cucumber. Cucumber is the leading market intelligence provider in China.
Hello, I'm Nico. Good to see you here. Before we start our webinar, let's take a look at today's agenda first. We will have an overview of China's corn market in 2022 from the perspectives of governmental direction, supply situation in China, import market demand, and analysis of the price.
After an outlook of the China's corn market in 2022, our topic will move to the China cornstarch market and we will talk about the supply condition, market demand, trading situation, and price changes of China cornstarch market in 2022, and lastly to have the outlook of China's cornstarch market in 2023.
A recorded version of today's webinar will be available online. We will upload it to YouTube and send you the link to check. If you have any questions during the webinar, you may type them in the chat box anytime, and we will solve your queries by email after the webinar, as the meeting time is limited today. All right, let's start.
At the governmental level, China corn's development was affected by China policy and international situation. In 2022, due to the impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, international food oil prices rose sharply. Agricultural materials such as seeds and fertilizers rose significantly, and coupled with a significant increase in land rent prices, the cost of planting has risen to a certainty.
In China, the Ministry of Finance cumulatively issued three agricultural subsidies totaling for 5.57 billion US dollar, twice as much as in 2021. The amount of subsidies per acre roughly ranges from 20 to 60 yuan. However, the total amount of subsidies is far lower than 250 to 400 yuan per acre increase in planting costs this year. The farmer rely more on the rising market price of their corn for their planting income. There was the increase of Brazilian corn imported amount, thus the import sources continue to expand. In November 2022, China Customs updated the list of exporters authorized to export corn to China, and 136 companies were automatically approved. In addition to the five major grain traders like ADM, Bunge, Cargill, Louis Dreyfus, and Costco Corporation, there are also well-known trading companies such as CJ, CHS, and Glencoe, and so on. The announcement of the list is a substantial move by China to promote the Brazilian corn imports, helping to further expand the sources of corn imports and enhance their ability to secure the supply.
To better help the corn market to develop in China, the approval of genetically modified corn varieties in China is accelerating. China begins mass approval of domestically produced genetically modified corn varieties since 2022, and a total of 20 items have been announced in the past 3 years. In the past 2 years, the contradiction between supply and demand of corn in China has gradually emerged. Meanwhile, Russia-Ukraine conflict in 2022 has further deteriorated the global supply and demand pattern of agricultural products, and their prices have risen rapidly. Therefore, the accelerated approval of safety certificates for GMO is of strategic significance for the adjustment of China's field crop planting structure, and food security.
In addition to the accelerating approval process for GMO varieties, The normalization of reserve corn rotation also helps to regulating and stabilizing the market. In 2022, although the transaction size of CPS reserve corn auction, which included both the one-time reserve corn auction and the imported corn auction, declined compared to the previous year, the long auction time, even supply, and the supplementation of auctions of other varieties such as forage rice still played a role in stabilizing the corn market. We can see that the governmental support did improve the circumstances for China corn market to develop. So Alex, can you tell us how the performance of China corn production in 2022 was?
Sure, Nico. There was the bumper harvest in China, and the corn output hit 277 million tons. In 2022, the China corn planted area was lower than the previous year. The national corn planted area decreased slightly to 43.07 million hectares, down 250,000 hectares or 0.6% from 43.32 million hectares compared to 2021. The weather conditions in the main corn producing areas of northeast China and North China were better overall in 2022, and the disaster weather was less than that of the previous year. However, the 2022 national yield of corn rose by 2.3% year-on-year to 6,436 tons per hectare, and national output was up 1.7% or 4.56 million tons year-on-year to 277.2 million tons.
Thanks for sharing, Alex. So apart from the production situation in China, the import source is the crucial element of the China corn supply market as well. Seen from the import data in 2022, China's imports of corn will cut down by 27.3% or 7.74 million tons to 20.62 million tons from 2021's annual high. The import price surged by 22.3% or $63 per ton year-on-year to $344 per ton on average.
From the importer's side, the United States is China's top source of corn imports, while Ukraine's share declines 14.86 million tons of corn were imported from the United States, accounting for 72.1% of the total corn imported in 2022, affected by the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Corn imports from Ukraine dropped to 5.26 million tons, accounting for 25.5% of total corn imports in 2022. After the overall analysis of China's corn supply markets, let's see what's going on of China's corn downstream market in 2022.
Yes, so due to the tight supply of China corn, corn consumption growth slowed down, thus the overall China corn price bumped upward. In particular, the operating rate of cornstarch, alcohol, and other deep processing enterprises is lower than 2021, and corn deep processing consumption was basically remained stable. Home feeding consumption increased slightly, and the consumption for food and seed was changed a little. Therefore, total corn consumption in 2022 was expected to increase slightly to about 318 million tons, an increase of about 3% over the previous year.
Specifically, demand of corn for feed up to 220 million tons on rising feed output. In 2022, China feed consumption was stable and slightly rising, was expected to reach 220 million tons, an increase of about 4.8% over 2021. Among them, the output of compound feed is 280 million tons, up by 3.7%. The output of concentrated feed is 14.76 million tons, down by 8.1%. The output of additive premise feed is 6.52 million tons, down slightly by 1.7%. The governmental instruction, supply, and demand situation are the important focuses for helping us to understand the corn market development in 2022. There is one pinpoint that can help us to better grasp the corn market in scientific ways. Can you present us more of the price analysis, Nicole?
Yeah, sure, Alex. Firstly, let's have a look at the price trend in 2022 here. China's corn price has been trending upward with fluctuation. The outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine conflict in March pushed up the global grain spot price as a whole. Thai corn supply in China, coupled with rising planting costs, led to the rising of corn market prices. The national average export price of corn in 2022 was 2,725 RMB per ton, up 77 RMB per ton or 3% from the 2021's average price of 2,648 RMB. Home market demand from January to February is flat. Mainly a small short of the price was slightly rising. From March to June, downstream big and thick processing enterprise purchasing demands growth. The corn prices rise. In the third quarter of 2022, high feed enterprise inventories inhibit the demand for replenishment, the processing industry into a large area of sustained losses. Corn demand declined significantly, forcing the prices to go down. The demand from the feed and egg processing industries picked up in the fourth quarter, coupled with a lower than market expected volume of new corn listings, which spotted a markedly bound upward in prices and reached a high point for the year.
Thank you for your insightful analysis of the corn price. Based on our analysis of the corn development in 2022, we can have an outlook on the corn market development in 2023. Overall speaking, corn growing area to expand by a small margin. One of the emphases of China's agricultural production target tasks in 2023 is to expand the planting of soybeans and oilseeds by another 10 million acre or more in 2023, ensuring that the planting area will stabilize at more than 350 million acre. This will crowd out the planting area of corn to a certain extent. However, due to the high yield of corn planting in 2022, farmers' planting enthusiasm is high, so it is expected that the corn planting area will still have a small increase in 2023.
From the supply side, imports of corn and their alternatives to increase slightly. China's import of corn and substitutes declined by more than 10 million tons in 2022 compared with the previous year due to the lack of price advantage. Among them, corn imports of 20.62 million tons, 10.15 million tons of sorghum, and 5.76 million tons of barley were down 27%. up 8% and down 46% year-on-year. Corn and substitutes imports in 2023 are expected to be slightly higher than the previous year. Firstly, China is constantly expanding the source of imports of corn and its substitutes. Brazilian corn has been arriving since January, which can make up for the Ukrainian corn gap to a certain extent. Secondly, from October 2022 onwards, the appreciation of the RMB against the US dollar starts. The cost of imported corn and barley will be reduced, and the cost effectiveness of bidding will be emphasized.
From the demand side, consumption of corn continues to grow as hog and poultry stocks will continue to rebound in 2023. Feed corn consumption is expected to increase to 225 million tons, up 5 million tons from the previous year. Corn dip processing consumption is expected to increase to 88 million tons, up 3 million tons from 2022. Consumption of edible corn, seed corn, and other consumption is little changed from the previous year. Total corn consumption is expected to increase to about 325 million tons in 2023, an increase of about 8 million tons or 2.5% from 2022.
The market price will stay high, but at a level below the last year. In 2023, China's corn supply and demand gap still exists. However, as China is expanding the source of imports of corn and its substitutes, and the start of the appreciation of RMB against the US dollar, the theoretical duty paid cost of imported grains further downward. Bidding cost effective has been heightened. China's corn import costs will also be lower than in the previous year, which will bring a certain inhibition of the domestic corn market prices. All in all, corn market prices will remain high in 2023, but will be slightly lower overall than the previous year.
Now, Nico, let's take a look at China's cornstarch market in 2022 from the perspective of China's cornstarch production in 2022. With a decreased operating rate in all, starch manufacturers in main producing regions registered an average operating rate of 55%, down 4% year-on-year. As a result, the output of cornstarch dropped by 3% consequently to 37.81 million tons in 2022.
Yes, the China's corn processing sector went through a hard time making profits. Producers ran at a low operating rate and there was a drop in cornstarch production. However, the production of cornstarch in China is highly concentrated. From the regional distribution perspective, China's cornstarch production concentrates in North China, Huanghua area, Northeast and Northwest China. As the most concentrated areas of cornstarch production capacity, these regions have fast and cost-efficient access to raw materials, representing a great advantage in material sourcing. So, what's the characteristics of China's distribution of cornstarch capacity in 2022?
At the province aspect, China's cornstarch production distribution in 2022 presents the characteristics shown in the figure below. Firstly, as the largest producer in the country, Shandong produced over 19 million tons of cornstarch in 2022, accounting for 51% of the national total. Secondly, regions with output of over 1 million tons, including Shandong, Hebei, Heilongjiang, Ningxia, and Jilin, accounted for 89% of the national output total in 2022.
Thanks for sharing the China spice situation. So, how about the market demand of the cornstarch?
From the demand point of view, cornstarch is widely applied in the food, chemical, and pharmaceutical industries as raw materials, and it can be further processed to produce products such as starch sugar, modified starch, monosodium glutamate, organic acid, and chemical alcohol. As the primary processed product of cornstarch, starch sugar accounted for about 50% of the total consumption of cornstarch in China in 2022, though the share was dropped by 4%. Such decline was attributed to the lingering high price of cornstarch, weakening the cost advantage of the cornstarch sector. At the demand and the demand for starch sugar has declined. Papermaking, the second largest downstream demand of cornstarch, was up 1% year-on-year, accounting for 12% of the total consumption. Food processing accounted for about 10%, medicine accounted for about 8%, beer and modified starch accounted for about 6% each, and chemical industry accounted for 5%. It can be seen that the consumption of cornstarch in the food processing and pharmaceutical industries remained relatively stable, and cornstarch consumed in the rising beer and modified starch sectors increased slightly in 2022.
Well, there is a dip in the cornstarch consumption in 2022 year on year. So, can you tell us the reasons that causing the losses?
Sure, there are two reasons for the slight decline. Firstly, disrupted transport and logistics in the early period and flat consumption in all foods made decline in consumption of cornstarch. Secondly, pent-up demand from the starch sugar sector caused 1% to 2% of loss in China's cornstarch consumption year-on-year, equivalent to 27.56 million tons.
I see. So, I believe that many people are focusing on the import and export of cornstarch in China. So, now let's move on to see the import of cornstarch. Firstly, and China is a net exporter of cornstarch with a large annual export volume but a small import figure. The low volume was a result of low commercialization rate abroad, and most of China imports are special used cornstarch, whereas in overseas, cornstarch is often directly used in deep processing.
Alright, as we can see from the figure, in 2022, China imported 7,686 tons of cornstarch, a slash of 47%, or 6,734 tons year-on-year. Top importers were South Africa, the United States, France, the Netherlands, and Australia. Average import price was up 78% or 500 US dollar per ton year-on-year to 1,145 per ton.
Alex, how about the export of cornstarch in China?
Yes, in 2004, China's tax rebate rate for cornstarch was raised from 5% to 13%, which stimulated a substantial increase in export. That is, the export volume reached a historical high of nearly 450,000 tons in 2008. After that, in the wake of continuously lowered until cancelled export tax rebate rate, the export volume continued to decline sharply. On September 1st in 2017, the cornstarch rebate rate increased to recover to 13% by Chinese government, stimulating the cornstarch export volume to continue to grow rapidly, reaching 704,000 tons in 2019, a new peak.
From the export side, there is something new in 2022. Exports of cornstarch recovered. In contrast to corn, China's cornstarch enjoy a cost advantage in the international market, spurring the export in the year. In 2022, China exported 222,000 tons of cornstarch, up 51% year-on-year, at an average price of 511 US dollar per ton, up 5% or 24 US dollar per ton year on year.
If we understand export situation from destinations of cornstarch in 2022, it is found that China's major cornstarch buyers are peripheral nations and regions. In 2022, China exported 89,000 tons of cornstarch to Indonesia, accounting for 14% of the total exports. Exported 57,000 tons to Philippines, accounted for 26%, and exported 17,000 tons to Malaysia, accounting for 8%. These top three destinations make up 74% of China's cornstarch exports in the year.
So now let's talk about the price trends. As the chart showed, in 2022, China's cornstarch price has been fluctuating, heading downward in general. In the view of the price changes, in the first quarter, starch price is mainly supported by an improving international situation and a rise in the corn prices. There was a substantial increase in the cost pressure of the starch enterprises and slight rebound of corn starch price. In the second quarter, due to the continued weak downstream demand, logistics and transportation difficulties, inventory overhang, enterprises were forced to lower the prices for sales. Demand in the third quarter remained weak. Coupled with the seasonal decline in the corn prices, starch prices remain low. In the fourth quarter, downstream demand gradually recovered but limited, which led to the price edge down slightly and shortly once again. For the whole year of 2022, the export price of cornstarch in China averaged 482.59 US dollar per ton, down 6% or 33.45 US dollar per ton year on year.
After the overall analysis of China's cornstarch market in 2022, let's talk about the future forecast of the China market. I think a lot of people would be concerned about this issue. Entering 2023, the corn dip processing industry continues to lose money, and the operating rate is likely to remain low. It is expected that cornstarch output will still decline by a small margin amid slow recovery of downstream market demand and limited export market continuously.
In terms of the overseas trade, with the continuous improvement of China production capacity, China's cornstarch is still in a pattern of oversupply with a certain export demand. However, in order to ensure the supply of the China market, the export of cornstarch will continue to be registered, so the cornstarch is estimated to see a significant decline in the volume of export in 2023.
In addition, with the diversified development of starch deep processing products, the production of high-end special food grade starch and small varieties of sugar alcohol products is expected to keep growing, coupled with the development and increasing maturity of new demand areas such as biodegradable materials, new materials, etc. The downstream demand for cornstarch will overall pick up. After the decrease, cornstarch consumption is expected to recover at about 29 million tons in 2023. We can see that cornstarch price showed downticks in 2022, and what will be the development trend of this price in the future?
I think the price is likely to move at a low level with fluctuation. In 2023, the corn price scarcely reduces under the balance of supply and demand, given a bottom spot to the price of cornstarch. However, it was to mention that the driving force of downstream demand market is insufficient, resulting in the sluggish consumer market changing barely. Therefore, it is predicted that the price of starch will fluctuate at a low level, and the price range is still mainly concentrated between 3,000 RMB and 3,500 RMB per ton, with frequent fluctuation but small amplitudes too.
Moreover, in 2023, the cornstarch industry will continue to integrate and adjust so as to accelerate the large-scale development and modernization and continue to extend the deep processing industry chain with a more diversified product system and a more optimized structure. Meanwhile, the field of pharmaceutical, high-end special starch, small varieties of sugar alcohol products, biodegradable materials, and other fields will be at a stage of rapid development. This would bring great changes to the starch industry.
That's all the information we share in this webinar. Thank you so much for attending, and I hope we can familiarize you with the recent changes and updates on China's corn and starch industry during the presentation. If you have any questions left, please write them down in the chat box. We will get an all of them and answer them detailed to you email as soon as possible.
All the information was enabled by our brand's CCM and a analysis. If you want to find out more, I recommend you to have a look at our website and contact our team for any questions and inquiries.
Yeah, thanks and have an awesome day. Bye.
Bye.